Why don't we take a look at the weather?
Hi there, my name's Todd. I'm going to be hanging with Dave on Nonprofit Insider in a moment, and it's looking to shape up to be a beautiful weekend. Weather's currently 75 outside, sunny with a weekend of clear skies, highs in the lows in the high 60s and highs in the low 80s, which was hard to say.
And we have the window open.
It's beautiful in here.
Absolutely.
Gorgeous.
Driving, music's blaring in my ears, engines roaring.
Welcome to Nonprofit Insider. My name is David Unger, and I'm pleased to be hosting a show with executive directors and key people of local nonprofits. I have worked in the nonprofit world for over 30 years. In those years, I've realized that the majority of the community does not know about the organizations that provide critical services and benefits to our community, and we sometimes take these for granted. This is a chance to hear about the organizations that touch so many in our community. The opinions expressed on Nonprofit Insider are not necessarily those of WMPG, its staff and underwriters, or of USM. Before I introduce our guest, I just need to make a statement here that I'm not sure this is going to be our normal show based on the sound checks and the introduction conversations we had, so we might be holding on to our seats for this one. Today, we have Todd Goodwin, CEO of Community Partners Incorporated. Hi, Todd.
Hi, Dave. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
Pleasure to be here.
Good. How are you today?
I'm doing great.
You did a great job with the weather.
It was my first time doing the weather, but it's cool. I
Yeah.
appreciate the opportunity.
I know all the sophisticated equipment we have to do it with really could throw some people off.
This is big time stuff here.
Well, good. So what is Community Partners?
Community Partners is a nonprofit agency that serves adults with intellectual and other developmental disabilities. Range of services and supports to a lot of people in 4 counties, based in Biddeford.
Okay, so when you talk about developmental and intellectual disabilities, what do you mean?
Well, it's a intellectual disability as a term. Used to be known by many other rather pejorative terms in the past. Some of us have known it as mental retardation, common term. Intellectual disabilities is a better descriptor this year. It's cognitive challenges and cognitive disabilities. And then the term developmental disabilities describes a range of conditions that are developmental in nature and affect an individual's ability, social interactions, ability to function like you and I would in life. So
when you talk about you provide services, can you give us a description of what you do?
Sure. We have a range of things that we do on a continuum. We have a lot of folks that we support to live independently in their own apartments or in their own homes. We serve folks in group settings. Please.
I don't mean to throw you off, but when you
No.
talk about support to have them live independently, what does that mean?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So let me put it to you this way. Many folks who struggle with an intellectual disability or a developmental disability have great difficulty in various areas of their lives in being able to function like you and I do without thinking about it in terms of developing relationships with people, engaging landlords to rent an apartment, to go grocery shopping, to hail a taxi, to buy a movie ticket, these things. All of those things are supportive services that we offer folks like this to help them live independently. And I could speak ad nauseum with any other number of things that we do that are very particular and unique to the individual seeking our services.
Okay, so I interrupted you, and I apologize, but what are the other services that you are offering?
Yeah, the program services, I think, is how I should approach this. Independent living, residential, we offer vocational supports, job training, a range of day programming services, and we have a nursing facility in Lewiston specifically for people with intellectual disabilities.
Keeps you busy.
Very busy.
And how many clients do you serve on a daily basis?
At any given moment, we're providing supports and services to roughly 130 people at any given moment. And that number fluctuates depending on what the service area is and what a given person's needs may be at a given point in time.
So lately, over the past several months, we've been hearing a lot about transportation and the governor's vetoes on certain nonprofit bonds, et cetera.
Yeah.
Has this affected you and your clients?
There are, I should say, if I may, and I don't want to get into the realm of the political. I don't know if that's allowed here or not, but
Wait, the opinions expressed on Nonprofit Insider are not necessarily those of WMPG, its staff and underwriters, or USM.
Thank you. Thank you. With that being said, I would give a shout out to the 126th legislature this year, who did an incredible bipartisan job on behalf of the folks in our state that receive the sorts of services provided by agencies like ours. They did all kinds of things to preserve dollars for people. Can you remind me with that? I just forgot the question though. I threw that shout out.
Have all the political stuff that's gone on, has it affected, like with the transportation contracts
Yeah.
and things like that?
Yeah.
Has that affected?
Yeah. We emerged pretty well in this last session, but over the last several years, our sort of piece of the nonprofit world has sustained a lot of financial hits, like many others have.
Right.
It's not just us, obviously. But we're trying to do our best to manage and weather our way through that.
So does your organization do independent fundraising on top of
We do.
receiving state funds?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is an important point. May I just add something real quick?
Oh,
In our service area, the only source of funding are public Medicaid dollars. So it is important for organizations like us to do what we can for raising dollars elsewhere.
and I've gotten into this a little bit with a couple of my recent clients, and I'm just amazed over, from what I perceive, the quality of services organizations like you are providing, but overwhelmed with the cost behind it because it's human cost and you have to pay people by hour.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be, and I don't know if this could even be measured, what would be the average cost of supporting someone in a independent living situation?
Yeah, boy, I wish you would have told me to bring my spreadsheets. I would have been able to give you that
That would have been
exhausting.
no fun.
Yeah, this needs to be fun. I'm going to just ballpark it.
That, yeah,
Com-
just to give the listeners a sense.
A complete total ballpark, $60,000, $70,000 a year for independent living.
Right,
Different higher levels of care, of course, would be much higher than that.
right. But the average, if we were to say there's X number of people, the average cost would be X number of dollars, and would give us a ballpark.
Yeah, I think what I just quoted is a reasonable guesstimate of what that ballpark would
And that
be.
includes transportation, personal care.
Absolutely, transportation, food, living costs, the the salaries of the staff people that go in and help these folks with the most basic and intimate care needs that they may have.
And if the state funds would disappear or diminish,
The services go away.
and
Bottom line.
And there's no real way of, unless it's a massive fundraising effort to.
Yeah. Yes. They go
Okay.
away.
That-
And absent
Black and white answer.
yeah. No gray.
So, as an executive director, with all these issues that you face on a day-to-day basis, what are some of the ways that you've learned to work the system, or some of the issues that you're finding that might help other executive directors or other nonprofits?
Well, lots to say on that. I think for me and for us, the key to all of this is true collaboration. Finding opportunities to break down organizational silos, get over turf issues, and recognize that the pie of money out there is limited. And we need to break our old ways of thinking about wanting the biggest piece of the pie and be happy with a smaller slice if that means there are more smaller slices to go around.
Right. So, I'm going to get in trouble now, but so be it. This is my show, and I'm allowed to do this. As I mentioned, part of my consulting practice, I have been working with this population, and that's how you and I actually met.
Right.
And I was thoroughly impressed when you and I began talking about the partnership and collaboration, because my personal feeling is that I think you won't get a smaller slice of the pie, you'll just get a different configuration of the pie.
I think that's right, yeah.
I'm amazed over how many organizations that I've met with who do similar work to you, who don't see it that way.
That doesn't surprise me, actually.
And what's happening is that the clients are the one who are suffering in the process.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Oh, so it's just been a real eye opener for me.
Well, and I think that I mean it's a fundamental paradigm shift, right? I mean this you open up a newspaper any day of the week and you see something about healthcare reform and new ways of doing business in the healthcare sector. That's what we're talking about here. We've got to force ourselves into new ways of thinking, and it just sort of hasn't caught up in our piece of the nonprofit world yet at a level that I think it should.
It seems to me very territorial almost.
I think that's true.
And I'm going out on a limb here.
Yeah, well, but I will. I think you're right, but I will also say this: just as I gave a shout out to the last legislature, I'd also give a shout out truly to the provider community that we're a part of.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and again, you and I have talked about that too. But despite the challenges, there is a burgeoning true sense of collegiality and recognition that the need is just continuing to grow. It's not getting smaller. And unless we do things differently, we're not possibly going to be able to meet the need at the level that it needs to be met.
And what's happening is, at least this is my perception, with medical care being as good as it is, a lot of these folks are living longer,
Right.
which is creating a whole different set of issues. Like I attended a session a couple weeks ago, Alzheimer's and Down syndrome.
Correct.
I mean, you didn't think about that 15 years ago.
Right. Someone with Down syndrome living to 70 years old today, which is not at all abnormal, it wouldn't have occurred. It just
Right.
didn't occur, 20
And
years ago.
Younger people are still coming into the system.
Correct.
So the system itself is growing.
That's right. Costs are going up.
Wow. So we need to take a little mid-break here. And as we do every week, we ask our guest a trivia question.
Dun,
And
dun, dun.
that's it. So I'll ask you the question, then we'll take a little break here. According to United Cerebral Palsy's Case for Inclusion, published in 2013, what portion of people in dollars stay in home and community-based services in Maine?
One more time, please.
According to United Cerebral Palsy's Case for Inclusion, published in 2013, what portion of people in dollars stay in home and community-based services in Maine? I'm going to do my little break and give you a minute or two to think about it.
All right.
This is WMPG, and I'm David Unger, and today we're talking to Todd Goodwin, CEO of Community Partners Incorporated, on Nonprofit Insider. Do you have your answer?
85%.
95.6.
Ah.
And
That's what I was going to say.
That's it. And Maine is rated
Kidding.
17th in the country, which
Yeah.
I found interesting because when I was looking at the statistics, we don't have institutionalized care in Maine anymore, do we?
We do not, and in fact, Maine is quite progressive relative to the national scene.
I want to pick up on that, but I have I need assistance from our technical engineer right now. Is it appropriate for me to do a shout out to someone who I missed their birthday on June 24th and tell them that we got them a sea caramel chocolate cupcake? And what do we do when it's someone's birthday?
Don't you typically sing a song?
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Deb. Happy birthday to you.
Rah, rah, rah.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very, very much.
We
Now
just
back to Nonprofit Insider.
We just wanted to see if you were listening.
Yeah. Thanks. You woke me up. Thanks.
That's great.
All right. I'm sorry, Todd.
No, not at all. Maine is very progressive in that regard. Maine took a really firm stance and an aggressive approach in closing its state institutions and developing the home and community-based system in this state. Granted, it's costly. Granted, it's not always the most efficient. But boy, it's a heck of a lot better than what existed in the days of the institution. And that's not just me talking. We hear that routinely from our national friends and national partners.
Oh, and you could see it just in how some of these individuals who live with developmental disabilities are living their lives now. I mean, they have self-respect. They can hold their head high and be engaged in the general community as much as possible.
They're contributing members of our communities.
Yeah.
Just like you and I.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm not sure that you're. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah,
there's
it's
all
a
this
point well
opinion
taken.
about that.
Yeah.
Deb, can we ask him to get off the show here? What do you see as one of the largest problems that you're facing as an executive director?
It's money.
Money.
It's money. And when I say it's money, I recognize that, folks out there, you always hear about nonprofits complaining about money. I get that. But as I said a moment ago, the need increases. You've indicated an important point. Folks are aging, costs go up, and there's not a proportionate adjustment in the only source of funding for these folks. So it presents a challenge to us and any other nonprofit that's similarly situated in doing more with less.
Let's say there's a scenario where you lose a large chunk of funding and you have to close a program.
Mm-hmm.
Where do these people go?
It depends. We were faced with this very issue last year, and fortunately we were able to, thankfully we were able to preserve some funding, but we were faced with the very real prospect of a group of folks moving from a community-based residential setting into a much costlier nursing home level of care.
All right, so can you define a community-based residential setting?
Yeah, a group home that sits in a neighborhood. There might be one or two next door to this studio that we're sitting in now, and we don't even know it because they are so well integrated in
Right.
our communities. But it's a group setting, oftentimes licensed by the state, wherein a group of people live and receive supportive services from agencies like Community Partners.
So, it's just to generalize and to kind of put an average look on this. Someone who's living with developmental disabilities may have a part-time job in the community,
Absolutely.
either at a store or doing something,
Absolutely.
getting a paycheck,
Absolutely.
paying payroll taxes.
Right on.
And now, because the funding for the state home will dry up, you're putting them into a nursing home situation.
It's absolutely a very real possibility, yes.
And when we talk about a nursing home situation, it's people who need nursing care.
That's right. And these folks don't necessarily need that, so they sit and do nothing at 3 times the cost.
At 3 times the cost. Plus, they have the ability to see what's around them. And,
Yeah, I'm with you.
and so now we're dealing with an individual who used to be a productive member of our community in a nursing home, possibly facing depression at their own level that they can understand.
Yep.
We may not understand.
Correct. Yep. No, it's a road to poor outcome, right? It's a
I
road
think
to
that's
poor
the
outcome.
understatement.
Yeah. These are the things we wish to avoid. And again, it pleases me to recognize that our state partners who are charged with deploying the public dollars for these services are equally concerned with the sorts of issues that we're talking about right now, and are on board with trying to come up with creative solutions. But it's difficult,
Right.
and it takes a lot of us to figure it out.
If you had to boast about one program that you do, what would that program be?
That is a hard question, and as Rory Robb, one of my colleagues, likes to say, that's like asking to name your favorite child. But with that being said, I would point out to our.
Let me rephrase it.
Okay.
If you're talking to a funder,
Yeah.
which program would you highlight as a funding opportunity?
Okay.
Was that better?
That's a lot better. Thank you. I would point to our independent living program, and I would point to it for a couple of reasons. This is the least restrictive setting for people that provides them the maximum opportunity to identify and reach a potential, a meaningful contributing potential that's good for them. It is the most cost-efficient way to deliver services, and it keeps a group of richly diverse, funny, wonderful people in our communities. It does not squirrel them away behind a door somewhere. And we can learn a lot from difference. So that's what I would highlight. That's the way to go. It saves money, it builds community capacity, and it just makes for a better, richer society.
A couple weeks ago, you sent me a link to your medical program or your medical.
Yeah, we're doing some stuff in partnership with UNE's College of Osteopathic Medicine.
We have a couple minutes left. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I mentioned earlier some changes in the healthcare system, and what we're trying to do is find a place for folks that have intellectual and developmental disabilities in these changing systems. So we got together with UNE's College of Osteopathic Medicine to put together a training tool that they're going to use for the next generation of doctors to learn how to better engage folks with intellectual and developmental disabilities. We're real excited about it.
Yeah, it's a series of 4 videos, right?
That's correct, and they're going to use it as part of their curriculum, and we in the provider community would like to use it to help educate our own people, our own staff, on how they can better engage the healthcare community, all with a grand goal of improving the quality of care for this population and reducing costs.
I happened to see one of the videos. It was about 20 minutes or 40 minutes long, I think, but it talked about preparing for a doctor's visit.
Correct.
You know, and you don't think about what we do on a day-to-day basis to prep for a doctor's
Right,
visit, but
right.
somebody has to walk one of these individuals through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, we walk into the doctor's office and we're hit with a barrage of questions. And for someone that has a very significant communication challenge, it's difficult. It's frustrating for the person that has difficulty communicating, and it's frustrating for the provider who has 15 minutes to provide his or her session and get all the information they need. So
Right.
if we can improve that, we're doing well by everybody.
So with the state not taking the 70,000 or so, or whatever the number is, new Medicaid, does this affect your population at all?
No,
No? Okay.
no. Not directly.
What do you mean not directly?
Well, I'm not sure that we have enough time to go into the minutia of.
we do.
Do we?
Yeah.
Okay, you said you were going to challenge me on this. So I think the question you ask is our state's reluctance to expand Medicaid going to have an adverse effect on the folks we serve? That's the question.
Yes.
Okay. Let me retract what I just said quickly and say perhaps, not quite sure yet. And the reason I qualify it that way is the pot of Medicaid money is finite, obviously. But the state does have opportunities to change the rules around how it utilizes those dollars. And there are any number of ways that can be done. So if rules are changed in one direction, it could affect our people. If they're changed in another direction, maybe it wouldn't. What would not affect our folks or take away from our folks is if our state, in fact, expanded Medicaid. And I think sometimes we hear out in the world that if we expand Medicaid, people like people that we support, and people with disabilities are going to be hurt because money's going to be taken away from them. That's not the case. Expansion adds dollars. It doesn't take dollars away.
Right.
So.
Do you have any questions for me? I've been asking all the questions.
Yeah, I do have a question. You were kind of getting at it earlier, but as you mentioned that we got to know each other through your work with this population, and I'm excited to continue those opportunities. And I'd throw the same question back at you. What are some of the challenges you see and some of the good things that you see?
I see. I was out of this working with this population for a good number of years, but just the respect that they have for themselves, in each other, in communication, and wanting to do things a little differently. I was very fortunate when Strive U got engaged at the very beginning. I was watching how that played out, and I was working with them a little bit on that. But the whole philosophy of self-independence is a lot different than it was 20, 30 years ago.
Right.
And, when you talk about engagement in the general community, it's looking beyond what the traditional roles used to be.
It's real stuff.
It's real stuff.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
It's being a bagger at a supermarket's really important. And this is not to minimize that, but there are other people who are qualified to do other things.
That's right.
and how do we provide them those opportunities?
Exactly.
And that's what's really exciting for me. The challenge is how do we break the traditional norms and models
Well,
to do that?
And if I may add to that, these and you know this, these are a group of people, they want to work.
They want to work, yeah.
If you're an employer, this is the employee you want.
And
They show up, they work hard, they do their job, and they're happy about it.
and what amazes me is that they are limited to what they can do, because if they go 1 minute over, they lose benefits.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or, so we have to find creative ways
right. That's
of
right.
compensating them so they don't jeopardize that. I have one individual I'm working with right now that he was fortunate. His family left him a trust fund,
Yeah.
and he had a great job. The state said you have to quit your job if you want to use your trust fund.
Doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Arbitrary rules make no sense.
Right. So
Yeah.
he either had to lose his benefits
Yeah.
and keep his job, or keep his job
Right.
and lose his benefits.
Right.
I mean, and the guy sits at home and does nothing now.
So I look forward to you continuing and joining our larger collaborative efforts to bring some solutions to this.
Well, we're going to try. We're
Yeah,
going to try.
excellent. Excellent.
Just so a disclaimer, the group that I'm talking about is Speaking Up for Us.
Yep.
And you're familiar with them.
Absolutely.
And in 2 weeks, I'm actually going to have on the show the chair of the board and another board member.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Great. Oh, 2 weeks from now, I'll have to be sure to listen into
Yeah,
that. That's great.
so that's going to be an interesting show, and they're really excited about it because they're going to be able to talk about the issues from their perspective,
Right on. Yeah.
versus a professional like us talking about it.
Exactly.
So that's going to be really a nice touch.
Fantastic.
Okay, I think that's going to be it for today. I want to thank Todd for joining us. It was a great show, and hopefully our listeners got some insight into some things that they may not have had before.
Appreciate the opportunity to talk a little bit.
Next week, Olympia Yarger, director of Raising Raiders. The music appears by courtesy of Mike Hubbard. You can find Mike's music on www.michaelhubbardmusic.com. Check out Mike's website to see where he is playing this weekend. Thanks to Deb Danger, the birthday girl, NPI's executive engineer. You can catch Deb on Morning Street, Fridays at 6:30 in the morning. If you know of a nonprofit that should be on the show, please email me at nonprofitnpi@davidunger.net. I forgot to ask you one question. Where can people contact you?
They can contact me at www.cpime.org. Thank you.
Thank you.
Growing, growing, growing. I've grown too big for tourist towns. Yeah, I might leave a few friends behind.